Today we're going to tackle one of the projects that has been really getting us kind of holding us back around here. Is over here we have a chicken coop, and as it's getting colder here and the daylight is going down, it gets darker sooner. Chickens stop laying eggs when their daylight gets down. So according to what I've read, that chickens need about 16 hours of light. So I picked up a new light, and but when they did my septic system out here, they went through my underground wiring, and so I had to turn the circuit breaker off, and I don't have wiring out to my lawnmower shed or my chicken coop anymore. So today we're going to test out the wires, because there's two conduits coming out of the box, which I'll show you in a minute, and I have to figure out where those wires go. So right now let's go over to where the box is and see if we can figure out which wires go where. Hi, we're over here at the box. The box is down here, and I've already taken the cover off and exposed the actual wires. Now in this, I didn't do the original wiring. My dad did back about 20 years ago. And so luckily on the wire nuts, these red little nuts, he had written lights or plugs. Only thing is he's got lights showing into an area that there are no lights. So what we have to do is take the wire nuts off, and with me, I've had to find that I can no longer just bend down or kneel down on the ground. So because I know my limits, I have found something to sit on, which is a bunch of just some concrete pavers I had around the home. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start. Well, first off, I want to say I am not an electrician. So I am just a home kind of handyman. I've done construction. I've got basic knowledge of electrical, but by no means am I an electrician. So you may want to consult a licensed electrical contractor before you attempt anything. But if you have a little bit of knowledge, and one of these little handy guys, a volt ohm meter, which I've had for probably 20 years. For what I'm doing here, I can test my wires. I can test to see if there's voltage coming so I don't get shocked. But I also know that I turned the circuit breaker off that goes to this power area. So let's start by taking the red wire nuts off and test and make sure that we don't have power coming to. I want to set my voltmeter. Mine is for AC, which is alternating current. It has 10, 50, 250, 500. Well, we're testing for 120 volts, so I'm going to set it for 250 volts. So we'll take off the wire nuts. I know there's a power one coming here, and I don't want to touch the bare copper wires because it would hurt. So I gotta take these off. So then I've also got one that is these wires. Some of them are bare, some of them are green. That's your ground. So, and I'm leaving the other ones covered for right now. So I'm gonna set that to where I can kind of see it. My red is for hot, or where the power's coming in, so I'm going to touch my red here, and I'll put my black on the common, and I don't have any power. Also, I'll test the ground, and I still don't have any power. Now I always want to treat my electrical like it's always hot. I've just learned it that way. Now I have a regular pair of electrical pliers, because that's what my dad bent these together with years ago, and I'm going to untwist what he put in there at least try to untwist them. And grab that. And that is my, I know that one's my hot lead because it's coming back from the feed to my house. This was hooked to my plugs. And that was hooked to my, so what I want to do right now okay, so now we're going to take apart the hots on this side for the plugs. Okay, that is my plug hot coming from my panel. And this is my, okay, now what I'm gonna do, because I've got these two and I can get access to the plugs in my shed, what I have also is a jumper wire. There are other ways of testing it. They have regular test equipment, but because I know everything's disconnected, I can now put a jumper wire between my black hot wire and my white common wire or my ground wire, stick this in the plug, take my volt ohm meter, set it on ohms for resistance, but I can check continuity to see if I have a completed circuit, and it'll tell me which conduit I'm going down through. Okay, let's go over here. Okay, I'm going to put a jumper between my hot leg, which is the right side, and the common, which is the left side on most receptacles. The common is actually bigger on most because things are polarized nowadays. So I'm going to shove this in there, and that completes the circuit. So now I can go back over to my box and use my ohm meter and just check for continuity to make sure that circuit's complete, and it'll tell me which conduit I'm working with. Okay, here we are back over at the box, and what I'm going to do right now is untangle my stuff. I'm going to set my voltometer to ohms. I always like to just take my voltmeter and just make sure I have some voltage going through. You can see the needle moving. I'm not actually checking for resistance, and so I don't have to adjust my meter. I'm just wanting to know what conduit I'm going down into. So, we'll set my meter so I can kind of see it somewhere here. And because we're in commons, now I blew it because I didn't take and check ground in common. I check, well, you know what, yeah, I got to do that anyhow. So let's take one of these apart real quick, which I think is the plug one. And we'll do this. See, I said I wasn't an electrician, and I meant I wasn't an electrician. But I'm not. I'm just trying to get this conduit thing figured out. Okay, so now this one goes, this is my power lead, this is my going to plugs, and this one is going, oh, the red and the black, because that's how he ran it. So we're gonna keep getting things tangled up here, and we're gonna check this conduit and this red, nothing. Oh, it helps if I hit that one and that one, and that's the conduit I'm going to. See, we can see my needles moving. So that's the one I know. So my left-handed conduit is the one I want to hook to. So I'm gonna eliminate this one. And I'm going to hook these two commons back together wherever I put my pliers. And I know that that common and these are my plugs. So then I can take and twist these back together, hopefully like so, because they're being stubborn. That one says plugs, so then I will put my... Okay, you know what? That wire nut is too big. So what I'm gonna have to do is go into my shop and get a wire nut. What I did is I wrote lights on one, wire nut, and plugs on the other. Okay, so we're gonna take and hook the two hots together for the plugs. Taking my wire nut that says plugs, my other wire nut for the common for the plugs, we will twist the hot legs for the lights together. The wire nut for the lights. So we have our lights, our plugs, our common going over there. Now we still have the common for the lights to go in, so we have to eliminate the common going into the other conduit and drop the wire nut. We'll untwist that. Going in there. Okay, that's the one coming from power. This is the one going to the conduit I want. Move that one out of the way. Take the ground. We'll eliminate the ground for the other receptacle or lights or whatever. We'll straighten this guy out. This is the ground, it's a bare wire. The ground from the power, they can be hooked together because they're all grounded in the panel in the same manner. Just a little bit of difficulty here. But, you know, I'm not in any big hurry. So, we're just twisting the commons together for the plugs, and then I have to go get two more wire nuts because I forgot those are too big. We're back. I got two more wire nuts, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to wire nut the grounds together. Normally you would use a green wire nut, but I don't have any. And the commons for the lights. Then what we want to do is we want to get them all back neatly into this box. Now, what I'm gonna do, because well, they might be all, oh, and we have the other common, I forgot about that. Okay, so they're all out of the way, and then we have these wires that are no longer going to be used, and because of that, and they're just bulky, I'm just going to clip them off. They've been cut off. They were ran over by an excavator when they put in my new septic tank, so they're kind of worthless anymore, and they're dead, and we'll just get enough of them out of the way. One thing you want to make sure is we put that jumper wire into the receptacle. I need to pull that jumper wire out, because if I don't, and that's still crossed against there, it's going to blow my circuit breaker or cause a problem. So I'm going to go pull that wire out real quick. Okay, one thing I noticed that when my dad wired this originally, he had put that circuit breaker, instead of saying outside shed or chicken coop, he put, it has living room plugs. Well, it's no longer the living room plug. So one thing we're going to do before we turn that on, we're going to cross that out, and we're going to put shed. And that's just for myself in the future. So now we got that breaker turned back on, and we'll go out and see if everything works. Alright, now that comes the exciting time. Did I do it correctly? Now, if you notice, I hit the switch and we have lights. Now, the other thing we can check for too is, does the plug work? So we already know the light works, so this is to see if we have something that we can make noise. Now the problem is, and I have to fix it on one of my videos, is it's got a bad cord. So there's a chance this may not work. Doesn't mean the plug doesn't work, it just, let's see here. We plug this in, and we have power. So the last thing we gotta do is go put the cover back on, but now that cover is for outside. So you wanna make sure that it has a gasket, and you wanna make sure that gasket, which I'll show you, is in place. Now, as I was saying, we have a gasket. And the gasket's here, just a plain cover, and the cover goes right into place, seals off. It looks like it's all gonna seal. And I have some screws here, so we line up the screws, and I get them started with my fingers. And while I'm still holding it where I need it in place, use my screwdriver, and just a little bit, not tight yet, because I want to make sure all my screws line up, because otherwise you're loosening and tightening and loosening and tightening, and that's never any fun. So line that one up. Sometimes you have to kind of go back and forth a little bit, and back and forth. Put that cover back on, and I like to just snug them down so that gasket, but I don't want to distort the cover. This one. And there we're done. Now the biggest thing to do when you're doing a project, and I was notorious for this, is I'd get done with a project and I would leave my mess. So it just takes a couple of seconds to pick up all the trash, and because of living through limits, and I'm learning to be diligent with my time and my money, I look at these and I look at my wire nuts and see if they're still good, and they don't look distorted. If they do, I just throw them away. Otherwise, I can just keep those. This wire, because I do copper work also, I throw it in a little can and save it for one of my projects. It could make a stem for a rose or anything. So I look at that. I used to just throw this in the trash. Well, I can use that. Then I pick up my tools, make sure my meter is back to off, because if I leave it on the ohms, or it just wears the battery down. Kind of wrap my cord around, pick up my other tool, and that's it. Well, I thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe, hit the like button, and we'll see you on the next video. Thank you.